And within about 2.5 months, we wrote the grant and submitted it to the state of California. And about 8 months later, we got the word in 2010, about a year later, we got the word that we actually got the grant. And it was for $1.8 million to create an outside area called Mary's Garden. And just to show you kind of the inside pictures of what this building looked like, it was a church. So you can see there was pews and had this lovely wooden backdrop. And this is what it looked like when we gutted it. And I'm kind of skipping ahead here because as we were creating the outside area, Mary's Garden, which we had gotten the grant for, we also started to map out what the inside would look like. And because the space is pretty small, it's only about 2,800 square feet inside of where the pews used to be. A lot of people, you can see the concept drawing down there in the lower right part of the picture. And as I would walk people around and show them the concept, they would look at me and go, "Are you kidding me? You're not going to get all this in here. There's no way. It's too small." So we took the advice of one of my colleagues at another children's museum who said, "You should do this and you should mock it up in cardboard first to make, just to make sure that it'll fit and you can make any changes. It'll be a lot less expensive to make changes in cardboard." And because it was such an intricate layout, being such a small space, we wanted to pack as much as we could into it, given that we didn't know when we'd be able to raise money again to do an expansion. I knew the space was small. The whole building is only 5,000 square feet. Most children's museums in our size demographic are 15,000 square feet of indoor square footage. So I knew moving in that we were really, really small, that this was a small building. Luckily, the outside space is 36,000. And with getting the grant from the state of California, it was going to help mitigate the fact that our indoor square footage is so small. But we did try to, like I say, we wanted to pack as much interactivity into this indoor space as possible. So we built it, I shouldn't say we, but I had two construction guys build out the plan. First, it was put into the computer and made into a 3D model. And then that still didn't convince people. They still didn't believe that it could be done. So then I asked them to build it out in cardboard. It took about 2 months and about $20,000, but it was probably the best $20,000 we spent because it helped us, again, see what was going to work, what wasn't going to work. We changed a lot of things based on this layout once we saw it in cardboard. So in 2014, we opened the outside area of the museum. This is actually a picture of what it looks like today. We've painted the building white. We now have solar panels over a part of the garden area. But when we opened, this is the Russian River that is outside. It looks pretty different now. When we first moved in, people would ask me, "Why didn't you, there's no trees anywhere?" And I would just look at them going, "Are you kidding me? We planted 45 trees in this area." But they were so small that nobody noticed them, but they've all grown up since then. And it looks very different now. It's very lush. And while we were doing, like I said, while we were doing the outside area, this is the inside area that we opened with the outside area first. So just going back to this for a minute, that was open for a year. And we thought we would see probably about 50,000 visitors because next door, the Schultz Museum was seeing 50,000 visitors a year. And so we thought, well, we probably should be able to see 50,000 even if we only have the outside open. but we actually had 70,000 visitors that year with just the outside open. And while this outside was open for the year, we were building out the inside. And so this is the Science and Imagination Gallery. And if you can kind of recognize some of it from the cardboard mock-up that we did, this is what it looks like built out. I still can't believe we did it in a year now. After being open for 6 years, it's amazing how much we got done, but that's what happens when you're closed and you don't have kids and you're not having to maintain a museum and have kids breaking things all the time. So this has been open for 6 years now. And as I said, this is a Science and Imagination Gallery. And it's really based on what you would find in Main Street, Sonoma County. So we tried to make it look like a Victorian. We worked with various sponsors. So Crocodile Clinic is brought to you by Bernstein Orthodontics. The theater on the bottom floor, the Puppet Theaters, is by one of the wineries. And we have a hardware store that is sponsored by Friedman's. The diner is sponsored by Guy Fieri. So there's different ways in which everybody sponsored things. This is our outdoor exhibit, which is the ornithopter. This was donated by the helicopter, I'm going blank on the name, but you know, the local helicopter company and their family, the McDonald family. And they donated it, but we didn't want it. They were upgrading their helicopters, Reach helicopter, that's what I was trying to remember, Reach helicopter. And they were upgrading to 3 new helicopters. So they had these 3 old ones, and they gave us one, took everything out of it, and we turned it, you can't see it, but it has wings on it and these sort of eyeballs at the top. So it looks kind of like a dragonfly. So that it fits in with the rest of our garden theme of being outside with Mary, the butterfly, and all her friends. And kids are able to get inside of it. They're able to move the wings. Super popular. So since we opened in 2014, we've had people visit the museum more than 780,000 times. On average, people visit the museum about 150,000 times a year. And yeah, so that's, you know, and people wonder what it is about the Children's Museum, why it's so important. And, you know, it really, as Jay knows, it's really about the brain and the brain development and what is so good for children, and how at this early age, our target age range is 0 to 10. And really in those first 5 years, our sweet spot is at 3 to 6 year old, and even before that. And really what we're doing is helping to build a strong foundation that is really through the whole body. You know, it's through touching, it's jumping, it's seeing, it's talking, it's engaging. And those are the components that really build strong brain development in those early years. It's that connection between adult and child as you're interacting with other kids, with other parents. We have a lot, our exhibits are really geared towards all ages and all abilities. We now do a once a quarter event called Sensory Friendly Afternoons, where we basically shut down the museum but open it up to kids with special needs, and for free at no charge. And this is a really great opportunity for families who have kids of all different abilities, because usually you'll have a family of 2 or 3 kids and one will have a special need, but the others don't necessarily have a special need, but they don't have really a place they can all go together and interact and all have fun at the same time. And not only that, but these families can feel very isolated sometimes, where they don't have other families that they can get together with in a place that, you know, they have kids that have both special and just sort of typical needs. This is a place where those families can gather, and they find each other. You know, they've been talking on Facebook, and then they come to the Children's Museum and they're able to see each other face to face and share with each other. And, you know, just, it's a really wonderful thing to see these families interacting with one another. You know, what the Children's Museum does is really provide the seed for play, which is systematic experimentation, exploration, and discovery. That is really what happens on a daily basis at the Children's Museum. And, you know, so often children don't really get that freedom anymore to do this type of playing, where we basically give them the environment and the tools, and it's up to them to figure out how to use them. They're not told how to do them or in a time frame. They're not going to be tested. It's very, very open-ended. It's exactly what play is. It's non-pressured experimentation and exploration. So this is a picture of the outside Russian River now with kids interacting. This is in the hardware store. The Children's Museum is really set up to help parents make those connections with their kids and vice versa. It's really set up for parents to have a good time and provide them with a respite. You know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of, you know, you're having to be on all the time at home with kids, especially now. I really empathize with parents right now who are having to be both parents and teachers 24/7. It's got to be exhausting. It is exhausting. You know, again, just providing that opportunity. And, you know, a lot of people wonder, you know, is there STEM learning? Is there science, technology, engineering, and math? And really, as Jay can back me up, there is STEM built into everything at the Children's Museum, just naturally. They are experimenting. They are hypothesizing. They're using their brains critically to think about how they're going to do things or what they're going to do and how they're going to put things together. It happens naturally, which is exactly how it should happen at this age. You shouldn't be putting kids down and trying to, you know, put them with worksheets or make them put together circuits at this point. They're going to do that naturally and in a way that is much more productive for brain development. At the Children's Museum, they really get a chance to work together, and all kids of all ages just are naturally put together. This is really great for language development. This is how kids learn to talk, by talking to each other. Because when they talk to each other, they have to use words. When parents talk with their kids or kids talk with their parents, there's usually this sort of inherent, you know, language that they already have. Parents fill in words for their kids, or kids don't feel like they need to talk because their parents are kind of reading their mind. But when kids are talking to other kids, they have to use their words. They have to find those words. So that's where language development is developed, is when you are interacting with other kids. You're also building that social emotional development where you're learning how to just get along, take turns, and work together. This is one of our most recent upgrades. Talktopia is our youngest exhibit for 2.5 and under. It's really an opportunity for kids to use their whole bodies. It's very sensory oriented. There's a tree house in the back. There's a little tea house that they can go in and have tea with a Humpty Dumpty character. There's a ball pit. We are really excited about this upgrade. This was one of the areas that we opened with the Children's Museum, but we recently, with the help of sponsors, were able to upgrade it. And our plan is to do that throughout the museum with our exhibits, because we are now 6.5 years old. So exhibits are starting to get old, they're starting to break down. And so we need to upgrade them. Here's a picture of the ball pit, and you can see in the background the video, sort of a piece of the video that's going behind me right now with the jellyfish. Those are videos that are playing with scenes, underwater scenes. This is in our medical lab. Again, giving kids the opportunity to pretend to take care of babies. That's one of the things that our museum has that a lot of I'm seeing not as much in some other children's museum is that imaginative play, that opportunity to dramatically act out things that they might do when they become adults. And that's something that kids at this age really, really want to do. They want to role play what others are doing as adults. And so we give them that opportunity through the medical lab, the diner, the hardware store, the dental lab. We provide family access membership to the museum. So if you just qualify through one of 10 ways, very easy to qualify, you can get a museum membership for just $20, and that gives you full access to the museum 365 days of the year. We also have what we call Museums for All entry into the museum. So if you have a food stamp card or ID, all you have to do is show that at the front door, and each person gets in for just $2 a person. And last year we had an astonishing 26,000 people access the museum, either through family access membership, Museum for All, or what we have is a pay what you can at the door, which is virtually free admission. We also work with the libraries through the Discover and Go program, so that you can just check out a pass to the museum and you're able to get in at no cost as well. And again, just some different exhibits. Again, just giving people that opportunity, all children. We do not turn anybody away from the Children's Museum. It's a big part of our mission is to serve all children. Where we're going, we just signed a new 30-year lease with Jean Schultz that takes our lease out to 2050. And with that lease, she has granted us an additional 17,000 square feet of outdoor space, which has allowed us to look into expanding our indoor space by 9,000 square feet. That would get us up to around the size of a children's museum, an average children's museum in our demographic area, seeing this many people each year. It would allow us to have more indoor square footage of exhibit space, but also provide adequate space for the team that it takes to run the museum. We see about 65 groups a year come through the Children's Museum. These include preschools and schools and just various large groups come through the museum. We're sold our spaces for doing that. We don't do it every day, but on the days that we do it, they sell out every year with a waiting list for the next year. So we also do birthday parties, and we do summer camps and things like that. So it takes a team to run a children's museum, and because our indoor space has been so small, we really don't have adequate space. And a lot of people are crammed in, or they don't have a room to even work at the museum. So this is kind of a picture of the area that we're going to be developing for the Fort Fam in the red area. And then the expansion of the museum would be a wing of about 9,000 square feet. We would connect Mary's Garden, which is on the far right, and we'd have a connecting pathway that would go around and then over to the new Fort Fam area. This is what that area looks like right now. It's undeveloped. It has a beautiful vintage or heritage oak that we're excited about. And it backs up to the green space of the ball field next door. So there's never going to be a development over there. It's always going to be green, at least as long as Jean Schultz is alive. And we plan to do very low tech, very naturalistic type play spaces out there. These are just some examples of what we might have, things like that. We also want to give kids a chance to build forts. That's sort of how the Fort Fam came about. So it came about is it's really a maker space, but it's using low-tech tools and giving kids that opportunity to build forts, similar to maybe what we built when we were kids, and giving them saws, hammers, screwdrivers, and wood and pieces of different things to build with. Here's an example of an adventure play area in Sacramento, and then giving them maybe chances to make their own obstacle courses. And I'll just sort of end with this really great quote that I think sums up what play is about and what we're about at the Children's Museum, and why it's so important to have places like this in our community. It speaks volumes to how much we care about our children and their development and their futures when we have cultural resources like children's museums for them. So that's basically it. I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have. I think I'm back.
Thank you so much. If anyone wants to ask a question, go ahead and unmute yourself, or press the space bar just to temporarily be able to talk.
Collette, I have a question. How many staff members do you have, and are they volunteer? Do you pay them? How can the community support in that way?
So we have roughly about 25 staff people. About 75% of those are part-time. Many of them work on the floor. And we actually, on any given year, we have about 200 volunteers. We have groups of volunteers that come in and help around the museum, like the outside of the building that has been painted white. That's all been done by volunteer groups. Places like Medtronic, Keysight, Kendall Jackson Winery, even Nike. Nike did a day at the Children's Museum. So we also have individual volunteers who come and help out on the floor, who run programs for us. We have a volunteer who's been with us for the whole 6.5 years, Nancy Nelly, who does our Musical Moments program with kids once a week. So there's a variety of ways. We have volunteers who help us build exhibits. So there's a lot of different ways in which people can jump in and help the museum. So yeah, about 200 volunteers a year. We also have a group of guys, we call them the train guys. And I didn't show the trains in here, but we have running model trains that go 7 miles a day each around the interior of the museum. And they need to be maintained once a week. And so there's about four guys who come in once a week, and they dust the tracks, they oil the wheels, and they change parts out, because our locomotives, like I said, are not really, these model locomotives are not really designed to go 8 hours a day, every single day of the year. So they break down quite a bit, but they fix them. So it's kind of where their project. And yeah, so they come in once a week. There's about 4 of those guys.
What's your biggest problem?
This virus right now is a big problem, probably. That's probably our biggest problem right now. Besides that, and having to be shut down right now, it's maintenance of the museum. Just the sheer volume, and it's a good problem to have. We have a lot of people who are using the museum, and just keeping the museum up to working order day in and day out is a challenge, because kids are, it's just like nothing lasts forever, and as hard as we try to make sure that we build things being durable, they just wear out after a while. So it's the money that is needed to maintain the museum. I don't think people really understand a lot of times how much it takes just to maintain the museum. And just going through and enhancing and refurbishing these exhibits, to Tautopia was $50,000 to upgrade it, and that wasn't starting from scratch. That was just redoing upgrade. We added a new sort of signature exhibit to it, but we updated and upgraded a lot of items in the space. And yeah, it's just kind of amazing how much it costs to just maintain and upgrade things.
I had a question about the fort concept that you're looking at going forward. Is that something where you've got a crew come in, would have a crew come in and tear it down from time to time so that there's continuous construction going?
Yeah, we haven't really quite figured it out yet, but that is the thought, actually, that we would have sort of a base structure that kids could build off of and add to. And then at various points, we probably would come in and dismantle it and leave sort of, and fortify maybe things that are popular or well done, make sure things are safe. But yeah, we've heard from other adventure playgrounds that a lot of times they do go in and they will either fortify things, make them stronger and safer, or dismantle them so that it gives kids an opportunity to continue building or rebuilding. We haven't quite figured it out yet. There's a lot of different variations of adventure play areas. There's really, really messy ones that look sort of like junkyards, but to kids, it's like heaven. To adults, it doesn't look so heavenly. So we're trying to strike a balance between what kids will love being in and working in, and what parents will also love being in and working in.
Is this also leaning into that sort of trying to avoid over-safing things and, have a more sort of real experience?
Absolutely. We do want to provide that risk taking. We do already in Mary's Garden. I've had many people tell me that the rocks in the Russian River are way too dangerous, that kids can fall and hurt themselves on the rocks. And I try to help them understand that is part of what makes our space so special and engaging for kids, and that it's really, really good for their brains to be navigating, jumping and walking and traversing rocks and water. We have a sculpture called Megaflora, which is a giant tree root that kids can climb up, and they can jump 6 feet from it onto, what we've got this surface that's very padded so that from 12 feet up, you can jump on it. But parents get nervous about it, and grandparents and parents and caregivers get nervous, and some of them won't let their kids go on it for fear of their kids hurting themselves. But we are big believers and there's lots of research out there now saying how important it is for kids to be taking risks. And as kids ourselves, we were taking risks without our parents really watching over us or knowing what we were doing. And we turned out okay. So we definitely try to, again, strike that balance between risk-taking and safety. We're always trying to make sure that the kids are as safe as possible, but also giving them that opportunity to take those risks.
If I may, hi. What's extraordinary about this museum, as opposed to all the others that I've seen in most other places for children, is it's not overstimulating. Our society tends to make everything big, huge, whether it's movies or museums or Disneyland. Everything is an entertainment that you consume. When kids come to the Junior Museum, whether they're 2 or 10, they can play. And that's extraordinary, to be able to get that age range and to have them come back. It's like their favorite stuffy, right? They pick it up when they're babies and they carry it with them the rest of their lives. It's an extraordinary museum and it's a treasure here. I hope that we can engage Rotary Sonoma County wide to help the museum in their new expansion.
Thank you, Jay.
Hi, this is Nancy. I've taken my grandchildren there on several occasions, and what I've learned is what like their personalities start to emerge. One of my grandchildren is a real organizer, and I never knew that, but she'll go into the little cafeteria and put all the dishes away, and then we go to the vegetable bin outside, and she's lining up all the fruits and vegetables in their specific places. But she never gets tired. We could be there for 3 hours, and she bounces around at the different areas. She just loves sitting in the helicopter, staring out the window. So, but I'm wondering, is there ever an opportunity for adults to come there for like an hour or two at night and have a gathering so that they can wander the space and get a feel for it?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy, for those nice visions of your grandchildren or your grandchild enjoying the museum. I always love hearing those things. We had, early on when we opened up the museum, we tried a couple of adult nights, and they weren't very successful. They were a lot of work, and we simply didn't have that many people who came. But, we were new, and we weren't doing much advertising or marketing at the time. We just simply didn't have the money, or really even the bandwidth or the know-how to do it. So we have definitely been talking about it more now, and we had this coming year we had some ideas for how we would do adult nights. So we're looking into it. Part of the reason with the outside area is the lighting. Our budget just did not allow us to put in substantial lighting in Mary's Garden. We have some nighttime lighting, but it's not enough. And so that's part of the thing that we just haven't had the funds available to really put decent lighting out there. And it's too bad, because it's a beautiful space and it would be lovely to hang out in the garden with decent lighting out there, but we just haven't had the money to do it. But we hope to do that, Nancy. We are looking into it. And also, the other thing that we haven't ever done, amazingly enough, is sort of parent night outs, where parents can go do something and then drop their kids at the museum. And so that's another thing that we were looking into doing, and partnering with the Schultz Museum, because they've started doing adult nights. And so we were going to have kind of drop your kids at the Children's Museum and then go over to the Schultz Museum and have a nice time over there. So we're looking at various ways that we can open up the museum to adults.
Okay.
Brad Benson here. My grandchildren have really loved being at the museum. We had a family membership, and just the opportunities to go into the different spaces and see how things work and play with them. And I also want to put a plug in for the junkyard. When I was growing up, there was a construction company that had their own private dump across the dirt road from where our house was, and we loved going to the dump and getting wood and stuff for building forts. It was great.
Yeah, me too. My house backed up against a big field that was being developed into houses when I was a kid, and I loved going out there and exploring the piles of sand and dirt and various things that were being piled up there as they built the houses. I have wonderful memories of that. So thank you for the plug. I am a big believer, as I know Jay is too, in these types of spaces. We had an adventure play area at the Children's Museum when we first opened up. It was a space that we knew was kind of on borrowed time, because if the Schultz Museum ever expanded, it was going to be taken away. And during that time, they have since expanded into it, by the way. So we had to kind of shrink our outdoor space. But while we had that sort of, junior adventure play area, it was very basic. It's just a big open space with a tree and natural materials like bamboo sticks and just pieces of fabric and burlap. And kids loved it. They would build these really interesting forts out there out of the most simple materials. And when we had to shrink our space because of the Schultz expansion, people were very, very sad to see it go. So we're excited, really excited about bringing it back. And we're working with the landscape architect that helped us with Mary's Garden. They're helping us build this space or design this space. And we do have $1 million pledge towards that outdoor space. We just put in a grant request to the Finley Foundation, hoping that they will also help fund that space. So we're in a good position to make that happen. And we are continuing work on that, as even though we're not open to the public right now because of the virus, we are continuing a lot of these projects behind the scenes, and that's one of them.
Hello, this is Sean Shields, and we, at the Rotary, we do a lot of work with special needs kids, and just thinking about what you were saying and how you put it, and me going back to when I was a kid. It's hard to believe that I was actually a kid, but that to have exhibits that are not overflowing, that because in our society we like to do things one time and try to fit all the needs into that one project. But I would like to really talk to you and include, have again some special needs requirements, and they might fit nicely into the things that you folks are doing. So I really appreciate the things that you do.
Yeah, in this new area, yeah, we're definitely taking special needs into consideration. We, again, it's striking that balance between what a lot of kids can do and then what some kids can't do and what they're able to do. So we are definitely looking into that and making sure that there is a large portion of the outdoor area that's going to be accessible to all children. And even like our current space, like Mary's Garden, we're going to be submitting a grant at the end of this year to upgrade that area and make it more accessible as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything? I can't tell if you're trying to talk because you may be muted.
Yep.
All right, thank you so much, Collette, for sharing this with you. I don't have kids, so I've never had a chance to get down there, but it looks amazing. I'm really excited to hear about this.
Well, thank you, Lance, and thank you, Jay, for allowing me to come and talk to you all about the Children's Museum and help make you aware of it. And I will just end by saying we're always, when we're back open again, we always like to give tours. We don't allow people to come in without children for sort of obvious reasons. But if you would like to anytime come and just look and walk around the Children's Museum, we're always open for giving tours, and you can certainly contact me directly. I am happy to give anybody a behind the scenes tour of the museum. It's always kind of an interesting thing you get a little bit more, like I said, behind the scenes, up close as to how it all came about. So anybody is welcome. We're always happy to give tours.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Do we have any announcements or reports?
Well, I have a possible follow-up to our idea about seeing where we can help at the food pantry. Is this a good time
Perfect.
to talk about that? So I spoke with the director at the food pantry, and they are trying to work on a program whereby a couple volunteers will go into their little building off of Healdsburg Avenue and bag food for the senior citizens. And then another group will go out and deliver those. And this occurs twice a month, the first and third Thursdays of each month. And so I should know more later this week as the board develops the plan. But if they decide that they want our help, they will be looking to us to provide a couple helpers to go into the shack and package the meals. And I know that sounds a little bit scary right now with what's going on, but they've assured me that they maintain proper distance and everything is totally clean and wiped down. Everybody wears masks and gloves, and there would only be 2 or 3 people in this unit, so it wouldn't be a mass of humanity. And then they would organize deliveries to the seniors. There are about 80 some seniors in our community that need the food. And they would organize this into regions so that you are not driving hither and yon to get the food to the seniors. They feel that trying to get the food out as opposed to having the seniors come to the pantry there would be safer. I was really shocked to learn how many people are fed through this program just in March, and this is really before, I think, before things got even crazier, but they fed 2,000 people in March. And of those, 600 plus are children. And it just was striking to me that 20% of Healdsburg's community eats from this pantry. And food is provided from Big John's, Shelton's, and Safeway, rather donation of food. And then they also rely on about $100,000 in cash from the community a year. So I know we talked about maybe shifting some of our funds to them from our breakfast fees that we're not paying. And I didn't promise them anything, but I know they could really use whatever we can donate as well as our time. So if anyone feels like they would be comfortable going and either bagging some food or delivering to seniors, think about it, and I will have more information on this next week. Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, at the last meeting, for those of you who missed that or didn't see the email, we did talk about what to do about the breakfast fees, since normally we are, renting the space at Taman and having the caterers. And after discussion, the consensus was that we would automatically continue to assess the fees for the breakfasts, and the decision from the club was to donate that money to the Healdsburg food pantry with the option to opt out. I know that some people, especially with what's going on, are in somewhat tighter financial circumstances and could really use that themselves. So just let Terry know. Otherwise, that'll be on your regular bill. And, as he collects everyone's dues, that'll then, the money that would normally have gone to the caterers and to Taman will flow through to the food pantry. And since we want to jump on that, if you have outstanding statements, please jump on that and make sure that you're caught up. We're going to make sure that we're not paying out in advance of collecting so that the club doesn't end upside down, particularly just because of the financial situation we're in with our fundraisers. But I think that'll clearly have a big impact. And like Nancy, I had no idea what a large fraction of the community this organization addressed.
One other thing, they told me that Corazon also is feeding people. And that was another huge number. So when you add those two together, it's actually it's a larger part of our population. And the spread of the demographics is pretty even as far as Hispanic, non-Hispanic. It's like not heavily weighted to one group or another. It's a big mix. So there is a need.
Hey, Lance.
Yes.
It's Colleen.
Oh,
hi.
Hi. Hey, just so you know, Corazon and we are also getting our food directly from the food bank. because the food pantry cannot handle the quantities that we have to give out. So I know Corazon and Reach for Home are both going directly to the food bank for that reason. But I did see the distribution yesterday because we were doing the distribution for the homeless. We're doing that on Tuesdays and Fridays. And they had lines of cars going through their process too. So there's a lot of food that we're trying to give out and organize. And but the food pantry has been exceptional in non-crazy times at getting bags put together for us to take directly out to the homeless clients. So they've assisted us as well. So I'm really happy to hear you guys are doing that. So
Thanks for adding that, Colleen. The food pantry does purchase their food from the food bank. So they are closely aligned for sure.
correct.
That's where the cash need comes in. But they can buy so much more from the food bank. They get more bang for their buck.
Correct. They're like what I learned now having to distribute food, which I was not doing before, is if you set yourself as a distribution site, which we now are at Reach for Home, you can get larger quantities of food. And so the food pantry obviously is a distribution site for North County. Now Corazon also is, and Reach for Home is too, each of us serving different populations. So it's interesting to learn now through trial and error what it's like to have to deal with the food bank and to get food on a weekly basis and having to shop down there when the needs greater than what we're getting. So it's been a real learning curve in just a very short amount of time. So anyways.
I'd be really interested to see how people or companies that formerly delivered to restaurants are repositioning their distribution for grocery stores, because most people now are shopping in grocery stores much more than going to restaurants, of course. This whole changing of the local economy is going to be fascinating. It would be really interesting to find out how that's going on.
Yeah, I keep thinking that some of these shortages we've got really must be just supply chain issues. Like toilet paper, normally people were at work and so they're getting the commercial, supply, but it's not like we're all pooping more than we were before, I think.
I think it's that people can't get the product on the shelving. That's what was happening, was my understanding of. There is no really food shortage. We haven't seen any at the Redwood Empire Food Bank. They're finally getting more food on the shelves, which was part of the problem. They weren't staffed for the amount of food they were giving out. So now they're starting to adjust to that. And now when we go to get food, we are seeing that the shelves are full. So I think it's just because they haven't had the staffing, and the same with the grocery stores, to put the product on the shelves fast enough for the need.
Well, I know that they're putting rationing in place at Oliver's for things like flour. If my Facebook feed is any indication, people are baking at levels never before seen.
That's true.
Can I ask a question here, please?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, are we going to start a kind of a wish list so that people in the Rotary can get TP? Because every time I go to the store for TP, it seems like all the TP has vanished. It's okay, Vance. Vance, it's okay. We don't have to do it.
If you buy a meal from Campo Fina, you could, for $5, get a squirt bottle of kitchen grade sanitizer and a roll of toilet paper for $5.
Okay, that sounds like good. That's a good one.
That's a clever promotion. Speaking of restaurants, Larry Mills, do you want to talk about the social tomorrow? You're muted.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I would like to talk about that. I sent out through Club Runner a link to a Zoom meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. And the idea is that all of us are going to order food from a local restaurant for takeout or delivery, and have food by supporting our local restaurants. And you can get your wine however you want, but hopefully you'll have wine or something else, some adult beverage. And we're going to get on Zoom tomorrow at 6 for about an hour or so. It's kind of a happy hour time. And this is totally social. No business will be done except for sharing thoughts and hopefully some hilarity discussion. And you don't have to wear your jester hat. Don't worry about that. So, and I'll see if I can come up with an appropriate virtual background for me, at least for the occasion. The link is in the Club Runner notice, which you all should have gotten. If you don't have it, or if you're some question about it, you can email me. I think, well, I'm in the directory, but you can email me and I'll send you the link.
Larry, you might just send out another blast, right after lunch or something to everyone with a link, just to make sure that they've got it at the top of their inbox.
Sure, I can do that. Anyway, hopefully it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try Valette this time, since Dustin always contributes a lot in every situation. So don't forget, when you order, let them know that this is part of a Rotary Social and that it's part of our efforts to support the local restaurants. I think it's good for them to know kind of where some of this activity is coming from.
Lance, this is Brad. I had a question going back to the Children's Museum, and maybe Jay can pitch in here too. If they're expanding, it seems like a great opportunity for Sonoma County Rotary groups to maybe fund a display or whatever at the museum. I also think it would be really good for maybe, I don't know when we have to do a SCARC dinner again, but she could be a good presenter at a SCARC dinner too. Unmute, Jay.
Yeah, she's, I tried to get her to be a little more, less PowerPoint oriented. But when you can get her one-on-one, she just comes alive. It's amazing. But there will be a number of things that we can do there. And it could be one of those things where we're always looking for things that we can physically do, as well as put money in it. So I think the thing that really lights my jet is the adventure play area. And I've got a lot of ideas for that, and she and I will be working on it. So I'll be a pipeline to the clubs for that idea.
Because I know Rotary has the room at the junior college. It seems like if the clubs would all join together, we could do something really good for the Children's Museum, because it gets a lot more use than that room at the junior college.
We are hosting SCARC in November. So, and I know that the SCARC calendar hasn't been put together yet because of the pandemic, but hopefully by November we'll be able to do that. So that's a great idea as a possible topic.
I also think having Nancy, you and I have been there, and maybe a few others have been there, but I think it would be really good to have like a meeting there and have the club do a tour of the facility.
That's kind of where I was going with my question about having adults there, but I didn't frame it right. I was thinking that, or like a hour-long social, but if we could bring a lot of the clubs together there for a tour, that would be pretty cool. Because people need to see it. It's amazing.
The morning is open. They don't open till 10. So we could be there any morning.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so a regular time slot should work for that.
Yeah, and it might be something to invite one or two other clubs to join us when we do it.
Yeah, there are a couple other morning, like Sebastopol and Santa Rosa have morning club meetings. So that could be a natural.
Nancy, as you know, this is Sean, that we've been doing a lot with SNAP. And I believe SNAP would work nicely into this, into that children's museum, you know, because of course we look for on Saturdays to give the parents respites. And so so maybe we all can talk about this and see how that all can work together, because we have the framework of SNAP to bring in those other clubs. Okay.
Yeah.
As you know, I work a lot with with playgrounds that are inclusive, and there's been a lot of questions from Petaluma, from Windsor, from Rohnert Park about doing an accessible playground. Those are really difficult to do, but they cost like $3 or $4 million a pop. And you've already got the basis for something that's engaging to all children. So it would be a great thing to concentrate our efforts there at the museum.
Very good. Archie, do we have any recognitions? You're muted too.
Can this is Sean again. Can I just jump in and give a recognition? My mom's birthday was 2 weeks ago, and we had a Zoom session. But what I wanted to do is give out $50. My mother is 98, so my wife keeps telling me that I'm going to live to be that age, and I keep threatening, no way. But the point is that it was a wonderful experience. We had about 20 people from all over the United States that talked to her, and she was really happy with it. Kind of an uplifting experience. So $50 to my mom, from my mom to
in honor of your mom.
Well, however you want to say it, that's good.
Thank you, Sean.
And Bert, according to my records, your lovely wife had a birthday on the 3rd of this month. Is that true?
That is correct.
And how would you like to honor your wife?
Well, I was thinking about starting to make donations for her for a Paul Harris. So without disclosing how old she is, I'll put $50 towards a Paul Harris for Jennifer.
Thank you, Bert.
He's not that old.
She's older, Nancy.
No way.
Also, we had, Nancy Palumbo, did you have a birthday? I think we talked to you about that last week. Well, how are you going to go for 50, or you're not that old?
Well, my birthday's next month.
Oh, it is next month. Okay, I must have something wrong here.
My husband's birthday is Sunday, Easter.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out how to make that special. And
Take it on an Easter egg hunt.
Involves a lot of cooking.
Oh, I need to ask anyone who is suffering from the 019 bulge, from being too close to your kitchen on your work day, please put $5 in the pot. Some people understand that.
Archie?
Yes.
This is Terry. I would like to honor my wife today. It's her birthday. And I'll be cooking dinner, of course. But in addition to that, I think I'll make an appropriate donation to the Healdsburg Food Pantry.
Doke. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, if you see Will Seppi, Nancy didn't mention it, but the Cousteau Bakery delivers a lot of bread to the food pantry. And His wife's birthday was, I think, Saturday or Sunday. But next time he comes in, next time we see him, we'll make sure that he's properly recognized. Does anyone else have anything else they would like to have recognized?
Yeah, Archie, Bert's not the only one with a wife having a birthday April 3.
Cool.
So we celebrated Jeannie's birthday and got some takeout from one of the restaurants here in town and had a meal, which is about all you can do these days.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll put in $50 to the Club General Fund.
And she's not 50 yet either, is she?
She wishes.
Well, hopefully Brandy Seppi had a better birthday this year than last year when she managed to very severely break her leg and when she was ice skating for her birthday.
Yeah.
So being self-isolating is probably keeping her safe.
Lance, is that the real background or is that a fake background behind you?
That is, it is a green screen background, but it is a picture of the view looking towards Calistoga that I took this morning.
Okay, well, I was noticing it, the trajectory of the sun hasn't changed,
Yes.
but it looked very much like your backyard. So,
Well spotted. Yeah, the sun is definitely higher now.
You'd have to be outside by your pool to be able to get that view, right?
Yeah. So I just while the coffee was being was running through the machine, I just stepped out and took a couple of pictures, and then.
And we also want to welcome Doug home. He came home yesterday. I think he's doing okay. Smile, Doug.
I'm doing the best I can. Feeling pretty good, gradually getting back on my feet.
Good.
Excellent. Well, it's really good to see your face. I know everyone was very concerned.
It's questionable whether it's good to see my face, but it's been better.
All right. Any other announcements? All right. Well, I see Colette's already dropped off, but it was really great having her. Kathy, thank you so much for joining us. Much less of a drive.
My pleasure.
Next week, we have Dennis Agnos, who's the Chief Development Officer for Social Advocates for Youth, will be our speaker. So that should be great. Parting thought for the day is from Henry Ford. The highest use of capital is not to make more money, but to make money do more for the betterment of life. Go forth and Rotary the heck out of your week.